Mechanics are talking, and what they're saying about these 12 cars will shock you. We're not discussing old, unreliable models. These are recent vehicles that send experienced technicians running for the hills. From impossible diagnostics that waste entire days to repair bills that exceed the car's value, these machines have design flaws that turn simple fixes into expensive nightmares. The worst offender has a defect so catastrophic that even dealerships refuse certain repairs. Stay until the end, because the number one car will make you question everything you thought you knew about reliability. Number 12. Nissan Juke. The Nissan Juke's quirky design hides an equally quirky CVT transmission that drives mechanics to frustration. This continuously variable transmission develops a notorious whining noise around 60,000 miles, but diagnosing the exact cause requires specialized equipment most shops don't have. The CVT fluid must be changed with Nissan's exact specification, NS3 fluid. Generic alternatives destroy internal components within months. When the transmission finally fails, replacement costs $4,200. But here's the kicker. Nissan discontinued many internal CVT parts, forcing shops to install entirely new units. The electronic throttle body also malfunctions regularly, causing sudden acceleration or complete power loss. Mechanics hate the Juke because simple maintenance becomes complex detective work, and customers often blame the shop when Nissan's proprietary requirements aren't met. Wait until you see what BMW did to make technicians' lives even more miserable. Number 11. BMW X1. BMW's X1 transforms routine maintenance into a technician's nightmare through deliberate over-engineering. The engine oil requires accessing the car from underneath, removing multiple plastic panels, and using BMW's proprietary extraction system. A simple oil change takes 45 minutes instead of 15. But the real headache comes from the timing chain system. Early wear signs appear around 80,000 miles with a distinctive rattle at startup, but BMW's diagnostic software often shows no faults found. By the time the chain stretches enough to trigger error codes, internal engine damage has already occurred. Replacing the timing chain requires removing the front bumper, radiator, and half the engine bay, a $3,500 repair that takes 2 full days. The electronic parking brake frequently seizes during winter months, and releasing it requires BMW's proprietary scan tool, which costs $8,000. Independent shops either turn away X1s or charge premium rates to cover the specialized equipment and extra labor time. The next car makes BMW's complexity look simple by comparison. Number 10. Renault Clio. The Renault Clio's 1.0 TCE engine seems efficient until you discover its fatal flaw, a timing belt that runs in engine oil. This wet belt design reduces noise but creates a maintenance nightmare that most mechanics never see coming. The belt material degrades in oil, releasing rubber particles that clog the oil pickup and damage the oil pump. There's no warning signs. The engine simply stops running one day, leaving a black sludge where the belt used to be. Renault specifies belt changes every 60,000 miles, but mechanics report failures as early as 40,000 miles, especially in cars used for short trips. The repair requires complete engine disassembly, and if the rubber debris reaches the bearings, you're looking at a $5,000 engine rebuild on a $15,000 car. Many insurance companies now classify wet belt failures as mechanical breakdown rather than covered repairs, leaving owners with massive bills. What makes the next car even more infuriating is that the problem could have been prevented with a simple design change. Number 9. Hyundai Tucson. Hyundai's Tucson hides a Theta engine defect that can destroy the motor without warning, and mechanics dread these warranty claims because proving the cause becomes nearly impossible. The issue stems from metal debris left in the engine during manufacturing. tiny shavings that eventually clog oil passages and starve the bearings of lubrication. Owners follow maintenance schedules religiously, yet engines seize around 100,000 miles with no prior symptoms. Hyundai extended warranties to 100,000 miles, but here's where it gets tricky. The company often denies claims by arguing that oil changes were overdue or the wrong oil was used. Mechanics must document everything perfectly, including oil analysis and teardown photos, to prove manufacturing defect versus owner neglect. Even worse, replacement engines often arrive with the same manufacturing tolerances that caused the original failure. The diagnostic process alone takes 6 to 8 hours, and if Hyundai denies the warranty claim, customers face $8,000 plus for a new engine. The vehicle coming next has an issue that makes engine replacement look affordable. Number 8. Audi A3. The Audi A3's sophisticated electronics create a diagnostic hell that separates amateur mechanics from professionals, and even professionals get overwhelmed. Multiple control modules communicate through a complex CAN-bus network, and when one module starts sending corrupted data, it triggers a cascade of false error codes throughout the entire system. Mechanics report scanning 47 different fault codes, only to discover that replacing a single $80 sensor fixes everything. But finding that needle in the haystack requires Audi's proprietary ODIS diagnostic system, which costs $15,000 annually for software updates. The DSG transmission adds another layer of complexity. It requires adaptation procedures after any electrical work, and if not performed correctly, the transmission enters emergency mode permanently. Independent shops either invest in expensive Audi equipment or subcontract these cars to dealerships, adding delays and costs. The infotainment system frequently corrupts its software, requiring complete replacement rather than updates. Even simple jobs like battery replacement require coding procedures that take longer than the actual repair. Our next troublemaker makes Audi's electronics look straightforward. Number 7. Citroën C3. Citroën's C3 appears economical until its hydropneumatic suspension system starts failing, creating repair scenarios that make mechanics question their career choices. This complex system uses hydraulic fluid under extreme pressure to provide suspension and power steering assistance, but when seals begin leaking, which they always do around 80,000 miles, the repair becomes a complete system overhaul. The hydraulic pump runs constantly to maintain pressure, burning out the electric motor and draining the battery overnight. Mechanics need specialized pressure testing equipment and Citroën-specific hydraulic fluid that costs $90 per liter. A complete sphere and accumulator replacement runs $2,800, but the real problem is diagnosis. Symptoms change based on temperature, driving conditions, and system pressure, making intermittent faults nearly impossible to pinpoint. The electronic body control module also fails regularly, causing random electrical issues that appear completely unrelated to suspension problems. Many shops refuse Citroën work entirely because warranty callbacks are almost guaranteed when dealing with this interconnected system. The upcoming car has a defect that makes suspension issues seem trivial. Number 6. Mini Countryman. The Mini Countryman's engine compartment was designed by someone who clearly never had to repair one, creating accessibility nightmares that turn routine maintenance into full-day procedures. Changing spark plugs requires removing the intake manifold, strut tower brace, and multiple wiring harnesses. A job that should take 30 minutes instead takes 3 hours. The turbocharger wastegate frequently sticks, causing overboost conditions that damage the engine, but accessing it requires removing half the front suspension components. Mini's timing chain system is particularly problematic. The chain stretches prematurely, but you can't see or hear the problem until internal damage occurs. When the chain finally needs replacement, mechanics must remove the engine entirely because there's no access from above or below. The electric water pump fails every 60,000 miles like clockwork, but it's buried so deep that labor costs exceed the part price by 400%. Even worse, Mini uses proprietary fasteners that strip easily, turning simple repairs into bodywork nightmares when panels crack during disassembly. What makes the next vehicle even more frustrating is that the design flaws were entirely preventable. Number 5. Volvo XC40. Volvo markets the XC40 as the safest compact SUV, but mechanics know it as the car with the most overcomplicated simple systems they've ever encountered. The electronic parking brake system integrates with 17 different control modules, and when it malfunctions, which happens frequently in cold weather, diagnosing the root cause requires hours of systematic testing. The brake calipers seize regularly due to inadequate corrosion protection, but Volvo's service position requires special tools to compress the electronic actuators safely. The infotainment system controls critical vehicle functions including climate control and lighting, so when the screen fails, you lose more than just navigation. You can't defrost the windshield or adjust interior temperature. Replacement costs $3,200, but supply chain issues mean months-long waits for parts. The T4 engine's timing belt tensioner fails prematurely, and if not caught early, it destroys the interference engine completely. Mechanics hate working on XC40s because Volvo's diagnostic procedures are unnecessarily complex, requiring multiple software subscriptions and specialized tools that small shops can't afford. The next car takes over-complicated engineering to a whole new level. Number 4. Seat Leon. The Seat Leon's 1.5 TSI engine houses a cylinder deactivation system that creates intermittent problems which drive diagnostic technicians to madness. When cruising at steady speeds, 2 cylinders shut off to save fuel, but carbon buildup in the deactivated cylinders causes misfires when they reactivate. The symptoms are sporadic. Sometimes the car runs perfectly. Other times it shudders violently under acceleration. Traditional diagnostic scanners miss the problem because it occurs between the active and inactive states, requiring expensive oscilloscope equipment to capture the fault. The DQ200 dual-clutch transmission adds another layer of complexity with clutch actuators that fail every 80,000 miles. Replacement requires transmission removal and specialized calibration procedures that take 2 full days. Mechanics report that even after repairs, the transmission never feels quite the same as factory specifications. The electronic throttle body also develops carbon deposits that cause surging and stalling, but cleaning it triggers adaptation procedures that require Seat's proprietary software. Independent shops often send these cars to dealerships rather than invest in the specialized equipment needed for proper diagnosis and repair. Our next mechanical nightmare makes transmission problems look simple. Number 3. Mazda CX-5. The Mazda CX-5's Skyactiv engine technology impresses environmental agencies but creates diagnostic challenges that leave mechanics scratching their heads for hours. The high compression ratio requires precise fuel timing and quality, making the engine extremely sensitive to carbon deposits and fuel contamination. When problems develop, symptoms mimic multiple different issues, misfires, rough idle, power loss, but traditional diagnostic approaches fail because the engine management system uses predictive algorithms that mask underlying problems. The direct injection system creates carbon buildup on intake valves, requiring walnut shell blasting, a procedure most shops can't perform, forcing referrals to specialists. The IE-loop capacitor system, designed to recover braking energy, frequently fails and takes down the entire electrical system with it. Replacement costs $1,800, but diagnosing the failure requires understanding complex electrical theory that many technicians don't possess. Even worse, Mazda's service information lacks detailed troubleshooting procedures for these advanced systems, leaving mechanics to reverse engineer solutions. The manual transmission models develop clutch chatter that Mazda claims is normal operation, but customers demand fixes that don't exist. The runner-up vehicle makes Mazda's complexity look elementary. Number 2. Range Rover Evoque. The Range Rover Evoque represents everything mechanics hate about modern luxury vehicles: endless electronic systems that fail unpredictably and cost fortunes to repair correctly. The air suspension system drops overnight without warning, stranding owners and requiring specialized diagnostic equipment that costs more than most shops' annual tool budget. When air springs fail, the compressor works overtime and burns out, turning an $800 repair into a $3,500 nightmare. The infotainment system randomly reboots while driving, taking the backup camera and climate controls offline. Replacement requires complete vehicle reprogramming that takes 6 hours when it works correctly. The 9-speed automatic transmission develops harsh shifting patterns that feel like failure, but Land Rover insists it's adaptive learning behavior and refuses warranty coverage. Mechanics spend days chasing electrical gremlins through dozens of control modules, only to discover that a faulty door handle sensor is causing the engine management system to enter limp mode. Parts availability is another nightmare. Simple sensors often have 3-month back orders, leaving expensive vehicles occupying shop space for months. But our number 1 mechanical disaster makes the Evoque's problems look manageable. Number 1. Tesla Model Y. Tesla's Model Y tops every mechanic's hate list because it breaks every conventional repair rule and creates situations that traditional automotive training never covered. The battery pack weighs 1,400 pounds and requires specialized lifting equipment and high-voltage safety protocols that most shops don't have. When the pack develops coolant leaks, a common problem, the repair requires complete disassembly in a contamination-controlled environment, pushing labor costs over $8,000. The door handles retract electronically, but when they fail, occupants can't exit the vehicle. Emergency services now carry special tools specifically for Tesla extractions. Over-the-air updates frequently break previously working systems. Mechanics report cars arriving for unrelated repairs with entirely new electrical problems that appeared overnight. Tesla's service information is intentionally limited to prevent independent repairs, and diagnostic connectors are hidden behind panels that void warranties when removed. When problems develop, Tesla often claims the issue stems from unauthorized modifications, even on completely stock vehicles. The 12-volt battery powers critical safety systems, but it's buried under the frunk and requires removing the cabin air filter to access. When it fails, the car becomes completely inoperable, including manual door releases. Tesla's direct sales model means no local parts inventory, turning simple repairs into month-long ordeals that leave customers without transportation and mechanics without payment. These 12 vehicles prove that modern engineering doesn't always mean better reliability. From Tesla's proprietary repair restrictions to Nissan's CVT nightmares, each car demonstrates why mechanics choose their work carefully. Remember, a low purchase price often hides expensive repair reality. Smart buyers research known issues before signing contracts, and experienced mechanics warn against these models for good reason. When shopping for your next vehicle, consider maintenance costs alongside monthly payments. Your wallet will thank you later. For more automotive insights and honest reviews, watch more videos from Tune and Test.